I, 31M, found out my wife, 30F, had been lying to me for over a year, cheating, hiding, minimizing. When confronted, she gave half-truths to save herself. I did the work, uncovered the full betrayal, and chose myself over her manipulations. The first sign was small. I came home late from work, flowers in hand, and she barely looked up from her phone. No smile. No, "You're home." Just a distracted, "Hey, busy day." I told myself she was tired. God knows we both worked enough hours for it. The second sign came a week later. She changed her phone password. No announcement, no casual slip of, "Hey, I updated it," just a tiny lock between us. I didn't ask. Told myself it was nothing. Everyone deserves privacy, right? Our routines shifted. We used to eat dinner together, even if it was just frozen pizza on the couch. Now she ate early, claimed she wasn't hungry when I got home. "I'm trying intermittent fasting," she said. Maybe she was. Maybe that explained why it felt like we were living next to each other instead of with each other. Sex slowed down too. Not stopped, just like she was ticking a box off a list. Quick kisses, no lingering, no sleepy conversations afterward, just checking out. I told myself it was stress, work, family, life, all of it, none of it personal. One night, she didn't come home until after midnight. Said she went out with co-workers, said she lost track of time, she smelled different, not perfume, just off, like soap that wasn't ours, like a different air. The next morning, I asked if she had fun. She smiled, the way someone smiles when they're remembering a private joke you weren't invited to. Yeah, it was good to get out, and that was it, conversation over. I started noticing little things, new clothes, new lingerie she didn't wear for me, new playlists on Spotify, not our usual stuff, new smiles that didn't reach me. I told a friend at work, offhand, joking, "Man, feels like my wife's living a second life these days." He laughed, but later he pulled me aside. "Listen, sometimes it's nothing, but don't wait too long to ask the hard questions, bro." I nodded, then ignored the advice. Because once you ask the question, you can't take back the answer. We had a date night planned, dinner, a movie, the works. She canceled an hour before. Work emergency. Sorry, rain check? I believed her, because it was easier than not believing her. That night, lying alone in bed, I told myself, she's tired. She's stressed. She's allowed to have a life. I repeated it like a prayer until I fell asleep, and somewhere deep down, even then, I knew it wasn't true. The next 2 weeks were a fog: work, home, sleep. Repeat. We passed each other in the hallways like polite strangers. She was always just tired, always just busy, and somehow there was never room for me anymore. One night I reached for her in bed. She didn't move away, but she didn't move closer either, just stayed stiff, pretending to be asleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling lonelier next to her than I ever did living alone. I started noticing her phone habits. Always face down, always silent, always carried from room to room. Small things, things you don't clock unless you're already suspicious. And I hated that I was noticing. Hated that I didn't trust myself enough to call it what it was. One morning, I caught a glimpse of her lock screen, a name I didn't recognize, just a first name and a laughing emoji, gone before I could process it. I almost asked, almost. But the words got stuck in my throat like a splinter. I went to lunch with my best friend, someone who knew me before we had bills and mortgages and years behind us. Told him half the story, watered down, he didn't sugarcoat it. Dude, if you feel crazy in your own marriage, it's not nothing. We argued that night, stupid stuff. Groceries, dishes, schedules, but underneath it was something uglier. Distance that neither of us wanted to name. She made a snide comment before bed. "If you're so unhappy, maybe you should find someone else." Half joke, half dagger, and before I could even react, she rolled over and turned off the light. I sat in the dark, wondering when exactly we stopped being partners and started being opponents. and if it was already too late to go back. Saturday afternoon. She said she was going to a team-building thing for work. I offered to drive her, thinking maybe we could grab coffee after. She refused. Fast. Too fast. It's just for employees. That night, she didn't come home until almost 1 a.m. When I asked if she had fun, she shrugged. It was fine, long, and went straight to showering, the door locked behind her. I stood there in the hallway, staring at the door like it might explain something. It didn't. It never did. It started with the smell, a cologne that wasn't mine, faint, sharp, caught in her hair when she hugged me goodbye, and the worst part? I didn't say a word. I just filed it away. Another secret in a pile I was pretending not to see. She was always smiling at her phone now, not laughing out loud, just these small, secret smiles, the kind you give when you're remembering something warm, something you want to keep just for yourself, and somehow I already knew it wasn't about me. Dinner conversations became one-sided. I'd ask about her day. She'd give one-word answers. I stopped asking after a while, stopped trying. Because pretending to be a husband to someone who's already left you, even if they're still sitting across the table, is a special kind of humiliation. One night, she forgot her phone at home, first time in months. I noticed it immediately, sitting on the counter like a landmine. I stared at it for almost half an hour. Didn't touch it, because whatever was on that phone, I wasn't ready. She came back 10 minutes later, flustered. Said she'd forgotten something at the store, scooped up her phone so fast it was like muscle memory. I smiled like I believed her. I didn't. The dreams started around then, waking up at 3 a.m. with the crushing certainty that something was wrong. Not just wrong, rotting. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself, she loves you, she wouldn't do that. You're imagining it. She started getting dressed up for work events. More makeup, new dresses, heels she hadn't worn in years. I complimented her once. She shrugged it off. It's nothing. Just need to look professional. Right. Professional at 10 p.m. on a Thursday, I Googled her company's calendar one night. No event scheduled that day, no seminar, no gala, no anything. Just a regular Thursday. Like every Thursday. I closed the laptop and sat there for a long time, feeling stupid and small. She stopped wearing her wedding ring sometimes, claimed it irritated her skin. Allergies, she said. New soap, she said. Funny how that allergy didn't show up for 7 years. The worst part wasn't what I knew. It was how much I still wanted her to deny it. Still wanted her to grab my hands, laugh, call me crazy, promise it was all in my head. Because if she admitted it, it wasn't just her that would break. It was me. It wasn't a planned conversation, it just spilled out. Saturday morning, kitchen table, both of us half awake. I said, "Is there something you're not telling me?" No anger, no accusations, just a question so raw it scraped my throat on the way out. She froze. Not dramatic, not guilty, just calculated, weighed her options before she even opened her mouth. She set down her coffee, looked me in the eye, and said, "There's nothing going on." Flat, controlled, a statement rehearsed in her mirror 100 times before it ever reached me. I didn't push at first. I nodded, waited, let the silence stretch between us until it hurt. She cracked first, a sigh, a hand through her hair, another sigh. Finally, "Okay, there's a coworker I've gotten close to, but it's not what you think. I swear it's just emotional. I was lonely. I felt disconnected. Lonely, disconnected." Words that sound innocent enough when you say them in the right tone. Words that let you be the victim even when you're holding the knife. She promised it was over, that she realized how wrong it was, that it had never been physical. I wanted to believe her so badly it made my teeth ache. She cried. Small, controlled tears. Not the kind you wipe away without thinking. The kind you show people when you need them to believe you're sorry. I asked if she had ever met him outside of work. She hesitated, long enough to answer the question without saying a word, then said, "Once, for coffee, just to talk." Right. Just coffee. Just talking. Just betrayal dressed up in a latte. I told her we could work through it. That I just needed honesty from now on, that we could fix this. And as the words came out of my mouth, I already hated myself for how easy I made it sound. The first week after she came clean, I tried to act normal. We made dinner, watched shows, shared a bed. Routine, the great sedative. But there was no weight to it anymore. Everything felt hollow. She was trying, cooking more, asking about my day, touching my arm in passing like she used to, but it felt rehearsed, mechanical, as if she was reading a script she thought I wanted. I caught her texting one night, claimed it was her sister, phone screen angled away from me like a shield. I didn't say anything, just cataloged it quietly in the ledger of doubts she kept filling for me. We went to dinner with some friends. She laughed more than I'd seen in months. Not at my jokes, at hers. At texts she checked under the table when she thought I wasn't looking. I finally did it, checked her phone while she was in the shower, nothing obvious, but the name she told me before, the one from the coffee meeting, blocked. Blocked messages, blocked call log, blocked everything. Too clean, way too clean. I asked about it that night. Just casual, just curious. "Hey, are you still talking to him?" She blinked too fast, smiled too tightly. Said, "No, of course not. I blocked him to focus on us." Right, because deleting the evidence screams innocence. Sunday morning, laundry day. She left her second phone open, the one for work. Buried in emails was a ride receipt, downtown hotel 2 weeks ago, at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. I sat on the couch holding my coffee, staring at the receipt. Hotel, not restaurant, not conference center. Hotel. When she came into the room, I didn't confront her. I smiled. Sipped my coffee. Set the receipt down inside a book, because the truth didn't need to be caught anymore. It was sitting between us like a second shadow. That night, I started making a new plan. Not for saving us, not for forgiving her, for leaving. Because loving someone who lies isn't love, it's obedience. And I was finally tired of obeying. I waited 2 more days, gathered receipts, screenshots, backup copies of backup copies, not because I thought she'd fight it, because I didn't trust myself not to cave again. Saturday morning, kitchen table again, same sunlight slanting across the floor, same coffee cups between us, same lie in her smile. I said, "I know you met him at a hotel. No anger, no drama, just a fact laid on the table like a weapon." She flinched. That tiny half-second of real fear before the performance kicked back in. She cried. Real tears this time, broke down in a way I hadn't seen before. Said, "It was one time. I felt invisible. I didn't know how to tell you. One time." Always one time. I asked, "Just once?" She nodded too quickly, eyes too wide, mouth too fast. I remembered something a friend once said. The person who rushes to the story first usually owns the most guilt. I asked, "Was it emotional first?" She nodded again, said, "It was stupid. It didn't mean anything. Funny how something meaningless could unravel an entire life." I told her what I needed. "If you want even a sliver of a chance of saving anything, you tell me everything. Now, all of it." Her mouth opened. Closed, opened again. She gave me half a story. Emotional closeness, a few kisses, one night at a hotel, but nothing happened. Just talking. Just regret. Just weakness. She looked proud of herself afterward, like she thought her honesty bought her redemption. I nodded, smiled. Finished my coffee, because the only thing worse than being lied to is realizing the person lying still thinks you're stupid enough to believe them. I started small. Old emails, old photos, shared calendars, little fingerprints she forgot she left behind. There were meetings that didn't exist, trips for work that lined up perfectly with his conferences, dinner reservations under her maiden name, hidden Uber receipts, breadcrumbs she thought were invisible. I found the second messaging app she used, buried under a folder of work stuff, password protected, but she used the same password for everything. It wasn't hard. It never is when someone thinks you'll never look. The messages weren't emotional. They weren't romantic. They were filthy. Dates, times, pictures. Half the messages written while she was curled up next to me in bed. She lied about everything. It wasn't one time. It wasn't emotional first. It wasn't regret that ended it. It was me finding out that ended it, not her conscience, not guilt. Me, there were gifts too, expensive ones, concert tickets, weekend trips, all while telling me we needed to tighten our budget. The worst part wasn't the sex. It was how easy it was for her to compartmentalize it. Be my wife on Monday, his on Friday, smile at our friends on Saturday, cry fake tears on Sunday, and start the whole cycle again. I thought about confronting her, throwing everything down on the table, forcing her to see it. But I didn't, because it wouldn't have changed anything. She already knew what she did. She just didn't think I ever would. Instead, I started seeing a lawyer. Quietly, efficiently, like prepping for surgery. You don't yell at the tumor, you just cut it out. That night, lying awake beside her, I realized the person I loved never existed. I loved the version of her she showed me when it was convenient. The real her was a stranger who shared my bed, my home, and my trust, and burned all three without blinking. I didn't sleep much after that, not because I was heartbroken, because I was strategizing, because leaving someone who betrays you isn't an emotional decision. It's a tactical one. I opened a new bank account, moved half my paycheck, changed my passwords, backed up every piece of evidence, every late-night message, every receipt, every GPS ping she thought was buried. I sat in our living room, our couch, our wedding photos on the wall, and realized everything here was built on a lie, not just the affair. The idea that we were building a life together at all. She noticed me pulling away, asked if we could work on us, asked if we could start fresh, asked if we could heal. Funny how forgiveness only matters to the person begging for it, not the one choking on the betrayal. I said we could talk, that we needed honesty. She cried, again. Soft tears, practiced, told me. I've told you everything. It was a mistake. It's in the past. The only thing more exhausting than being lied to is realizing the liar still thinks you're dumb enough to believe it. I asked her one last time, "Is there anything else?" She shook her head. Hand on her heart, swore, looked me dead in the eyes, and lied. Again, without hesitation. The last piece of the puzzle dropped into my lap 2 days later. An old friend, one I hadn't spoken to in months, sent me a text. "Hey man, didn't wanna get involved, but you should know. Everyone knew about her and AP. Everyone. Mutual friends, co-workers, all smiling in my face while the back of the theater burned down. I felt numb reading it, not shocked, not even angry, just hollow, because you expect betrayal from strangers. You don't expect it from the people who promised to be your witnesses. I called the lawyer the next morning, set the date, filed the papers, didn't tell her right away, let her keep playing house while I quietly packed my freedom. The day before the papers were served, I looked at her across the breakfast table one last time. She smiled at me. That easy, practiced smile that had fooled me for years. And all I could think was, "You're not my wife. You're just a story I stayed too long inside." She was served at work. I didn't plan it that way, but when you lie for this long, you don't get to choose how the truth arrives. I found out through a friend later. She cried, she yelled, she told everyone she was blindsided. blindsided by the walls she built herself. That night, she showed up at the apartment, didn't knock, used her key. Standing there in the living room, papers clutched in her hand like a flag. Said, "You didn't even give me a chance." I laughed. Actually laughed. Not cruel, just tired. She begged. "We can fix this." It wasn't that serious. We were struggling anyway. Excuses stacked on excuses like sandbags against a flood she caused. I didn't argue, didn't yell, didn't demand confessions, because when you're done, you're done. There's no satisfaction in making a liar admit what you already know. For the first time in months, I spoke clearly. "I don't love you anymore. I don't trust you. I'm done." Simple. Final. You don't need a speech to leave a fire. You just walk out. She tried to stall. Delayed signing, asked for meetings, sent long, rambling emails about memories and working on us. I let my lawyer answer everything. One sentence at a time, one invoice at a time. Mutual friends split cleanly. Some stayed loyal to her version. It was just a mistake. He should have forgiven her. Some stayed quiet. Guilty silence louder than any defense. The real ones, they just texted, "Whatever you need, we're here." And left it at that. The day she finally signed the papers, she sent one last text. "You're throwing away everything we built." I didn't respond, because I didn't destroy anything. She did. All I did was stop holding up the pieces. Walking out of the courthouse felt like nothing at first. Not relief, not grief, just silence. The kind of silence you don't realize you missed until it's so loud it almost knocks you over. I didn't smile, I didn't cry, I just walked to my car, turned the key, and drove toward whatever came next. The first few weeks after the divorce were mechanical. Work bills, groceries. Survival wasn't cinematic. It was quiet, repetitive, and slow. I moved into a smaller apartment, different side of town, different coffee shop, different grocery store, anything to avoid seeing ghosts in familiar places. Some nights it hit harder, driving home late, passing a restaurant we loved, hearing a song that used to mean something. Small punches, nothing fatal, just bruises you learn to live with. Friends invited me out more. I went sometimes, laughed sometimes. Other times I stayed home and sat with the silence, not running from it, not drowning in it, just letting it fill the spaces she used to infect. She tried reaching out twice, emails this time, long, meandering apologies wrapped in excuses. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was lost. I still love you." I didn't answer, because answering would have kept the infection alive. People asked if I was dating again. The answer was no. Not because I hated women, not because I was scared, because I needed to learn how to be alone without being lonely. And that takes time. Nobody but you can give yourself. I found old photos in a box one afternoon. Honeymoon smiles, birthday parties, lazy Sundays. None of them were fake. They just belonged to a life that didn't survive the truth. And that's okay. Not everything that was good has to be kept.